Hello, everybody, and welcome to beautiful Indiana, Whiteland, Indiana, for Whiteland Raceway Park. Once again, it's the Indy Karting Challenge, the penultimate round of the season, part of this double-header weekend. I'm Justin Prince, alongside me for today, Ian Fisher, as we get set for the qualifying sessions for today's action. Happy to have you with us here at the racetrack today, Ian. First things first, happy to have you with us once again. It's going to be an interesting day as we get set for qualifying.
It's going to be an interesting day for sure. I'm excited to see if any of these drivers have come back for day two and if we see any more of the action that we saw in day one. A lot of close competition. I believe we're on a different layout today. Looking just at the screen here, it looks like a few different turns for these drivers possibly to navigate today. So we'll see if there's any differences from the action we saw yesterday. We saw a lot of great racing yesterday, Justin. I'm sure we'll see a lot of the same today.
We'll be using layout 75R, they call it, where it's instead of that quick roll into another right-hander off the drafting section, they have a straightaway afterwards, which opens up the opportunity to make passes, but also you have then a right-hander leading to more of a wide section, left-handed section. There's a lot more opportunities. This section right here you're seeing specifically, I'm referring to right now, that allows a little bit more opportunity for that drafting section to truly solidify some of these passes possibly today.
Well, another thing that you see there too, that S section yesterday, that was basically where all of our passes happened yesterday for any kind of really significant position. That's gone as well too. So that's going to be a big adjustment for those drivers that were in the race yesterday. They're going to have to find a new passing zone, basically, to get those passes done today. So we'll see how that transpires in the heat races when we get to those. Obviously, in qualifying, you're not worried too much about making passes, although you see a few karts side by side there trying to find position. You're really trying to string out and get yourself in a good spot here where you can lay down some hot laps. But I'm really interested to see where the new passing zones will be today, Justin.
First drivers on the racetrack currently for the qualifying session are the 206 Sportsman drivers. Those right now in the point standings, led by Dominic Gaddis. Gaddis having a points lead of just under 100. Danny O'Gara got the win yesterday in the feature race. Then you have Roberts, Sears, and Taylor also within good range to battle for third in the standings entering today's race. Those drivers all separated by just about 20 points. At the moment, it is O'Gara who leads the qualifying session. Gaddis is amongst those that is battling in second in session, needing a couple more tenths of a second. And we noted this yesterday, but these qualifying times expect to pick up usually towards the middle to later portions of each of these sessions with the tire heat.
You're absolutely right, Justin. We'll see that. Your first lap out of the gate is not going to be your fastest lap. It might not even be your second lap as well in this class. Usually we're seeing lap 3 here is where our fastest time of the session so far has been. So you'll see some of those drivers kind of get some heat in their tires, maybe get in a draft train or two. That's really how you're going to pick up your fast times, especially with an open qualifying session. It'd be a little bit different if all these drivers were going one at a time. Obviously, that would take us a lot more time, and with the amount of drivers here, we don't have time to do that. But there is an interesting caveat that comes in this open qualifying session is you do have other cars to worry about, and you do have other cars that could affect the qualifying time both positively and negatively. So it's another element of strategy, another wrinkle that these drivers have to deal with pretty early in the morning, so I'll give them that credit.
Of note, keeping an eye on Austin Taylor. He is right now not having the best qualifying runs, not working with his teammate like yesterday. In this session, he is down in 9th position. We're keeping an eye on that 224, in fact down to 10 so far on the racetrack. Dominic Gaddis has taken the pole for now, though, in his 257, 48.851 in this session. Still less than a minute to go in it. It's the best qualifying times. And we, yesterday, seen Gaddis, O'Gara, and Taylor really be the true standout drivers in this class.
Yeah, I was just about to say, you pointed it out already, really surprising qualifying effort from Austin Taylor so far. It was him, Gaddis, and O'Gara that were really the class of the field in this sportsman class yesterday. Really all three of them battling. Even at times, a little bit of teammates working together with Gaddis and Taylor. It sometimes hurt them instead of help them even. And in the heat race, it almost bit them. They almost lost the heat race to Danny O'Gara because of a little bit of team orders, I would say. And then going into the final race, they ended up making another mistake coming down the stretch, and Danny O'Gara was able to take that spot away from them. You can see all three of them together here right now on the racetrack, at least, but a little bit of a separation, at least on the board.
Expect the checker flag here as you see grouping of three. Now grouping together in this session, O'Gara and Gaddis have been setting personal bests before. Now they have grouped up and off the session. No improvements as they raced it around that time around. 48.787 is Dominic Gaddis' top time. He sets the pole time over Danny O'Gara. Titus Roberts comes away third in session, followed by Dalton Sears, William Feischtater, followed by Lincoln Willie and Andrew Avalos, Jordan Lapham, followed by Austin Taylor, Blake Martinez, Kaysen Hendrickson, Chase Call, Max Seal, Nolan Wade, Light Simonek, and Kaysen Martin rounded out the running order. And throughout today, you're going to be seeing, once especially we get behind the paywall here today on Kart Chaser, two sets of races once again in this class. So, in that regard, it's important to note that throughout this class today, you'll be seeing in the morning the 206 Cadet Sportsman. We see the cadets now hitting the track now for qualifying. Then you have the 206 Medium, the 206 Junior, 206 Masters, and the KA Senior and Masters for these races today. And that's going to provide a busy day at the Speedway. Cadets now heading the racetrack were Hodges and Simon Alec, I should say. Had some intense battling yesterday. Hodges won the heat, while the feature went to Simon Alec. It should be interesting how those two play things out for this penultimate round today.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what Reagan Hodges does today. We saw so many times during the heats, even the final races yesterday. She got out to the early lead, and then Simon Ellick was able to reel her in and then make the pass later in the race. So I'm interested to see if there was any adjustments made in that camp overnight to kind of maybe make that kart last a little bit better on the long run, or maybe some driver adjustments. I'm interested to see how that will go today.
Point standings, Hodges has the advantage over Patrick McNeely. McNeely did not start. Essentially, Hodges has the championship on lock as long as she makes this round start. Should be good to go to win a title. 206 Cadet. Speaking of her, there's issues around her that time by the qualifying session. It looks like one spin at least on the racetrack. Diesel Maxwell at the first to set a time, and the 56 is in the grass. That is not how you want to start the session here.
Yeah, you're not going to make your best qualifying time, definitely, from grass, for sure. But give a shout out to Diesel Maxwell as well. We talked about that battle between Simon Ellick and Reagan all day long, but Maxwell was just on the outside of that, kind of looking in the entire time. Jumps to the top of the board this morning, maybe a sign of things to come for him.
Keep an eye on that throughout today. Maxwell yesterday did finish third in a heat and fourth in the final in yesterday afternoon's races. Now, seeing a lot of these drivers stay separated out in this session. You're watching the 141 of Maxwell still zip around the racetrack. Not a lot of drivers working together, so to speak, in this session. But also, we've seen a lot of karts have issues. You see a second kart there.
Yeah, and you might have those plans to work with somebody as you come out of the pits, and then that happens, and it kind of breaks your whole strategy up. Also, you might just want to take this early session. They did have a warm-up session before this, but you might want to take this early session just to figure out a few more things with your kart, and then try to make your laps later in the session. So a few differing strategies here. I will say you only have, I think, 9 karts right now making a qualifying time, so really not the end of the deal. You can make your positions in the heat race if you have to, and we have seen some drivers do that this weekend. But right now it looks like everybody just kind of settling in, maybe still using this a little bit more practice time.
Hey, track time is track time. Seat time is seat time, so to speak, is the saying. Maxwell still top of the board in this session. With all the attrition so far in this session for some of the drivers, Hodges not amongst those who is recording times on this racetrack. It's worth noting. Neither is Simon Ellick, who took part in the previous session for Sportsman, believe.
Yeah, I noticed that as well, too. I thought we would see a battle between both of them. They kind of opens the door for Diesel Maxwell, maybe some drivers like Ari Berger. Berger was one of the drivers we actually saw spin there, but then has come back and recovered. Now puts up the second fastest time in qualifying. Now about 4 or 5 drivers in that 54-second range, so a lot of parity here today. I will say this, if Simon Ellick and Simon Ellick and Reagan Hodges aren't in this race today, Justin, we saw that battle from about third on back was very tight that entire race. So we should be in for some good racing today, even if we don't have our top 2 drivers in the field. They may not just be making a qualifying time right now. We aren't entirely sure. But I will say we're in for some really good racing if they do happen to be taking the day off.
We'll see what happens here for the championship. It looks to be in good position regardless. Sure, Heinzen also now has an opportunity, depending on what happens for the starters for the heats and the features, to try and leapfrog to second in the point standings. Simon Ellick had been 4th entering today in those standings. Checker flag for this session. Diesel Maxwell had set the fastest time in the 53-second bracket. Start on the pole. Patrick McNeely just jumped up to second in session. 53.604. Ari Berger in third. Rittenhouse, Waite, Heinzen, Fox, Enzo Seiner, Louis McConaughey. Hold on. Ari Berger crossing the line just jumped up to the top of the board. And that just shuffled Berger all the way to the pole. A last-second steal of the pole from Berger for Maxwell and McNeely. Now Rittenhouse, Waite, James Fox, Christopher Heinzen, Enzo Seiner, Louis McConaughey. Drivers who had issues this session include Tate Hall and Kyler Hendrickson. And a few moments here that looks like it's going to take for these drivers to get their karts out of the grass here before they come up to the next grouping of drivers for this session. Your thoughts on qualifying so far? So we're 2 groups through this morning.
Well, 2 groups through. I haven't had coffee yet, so I'm still kind of trying to get the brain going here and everything. But you know what I have seen? I've seen a little bit of what we saw yesterday as well, Justin. In the morning, people were kind of getting their legs under them. We saw a few spinouts in qualifying, saw a few incidents in the heats. I think that trend is possibly continuing a little bit today. Everybody just kind of maybe getting here for the first time today. We do see a few different driver names that we didn't see yesterday, so maybe they're getting used to it. I remember Ari Berger, I don't think, was here yesterday, and then moves to the top of the board today with a buzzer beater qualifying time. So far, kind of what we expected, kind of getting your feet under you still a little bit. Really excited for the heat racing, though, today.
Ari Berger was here to correct you there, but the thing was, it was for Berger, the first start of the season. And with it being late in the season, we're seeing a lot of newer drivers get their first opportunities here of the season. Brian Wheeler yesterday got an opportunity. Berger, James Fox, Grayson Waite, also Louis McConaughey, all amongst the first-time starters on the season for this class yesterday.
Well, I do apologize to Ari Berger for that. I guess I didn't notice on the timing board yesterday, but really making us notice today, coming to the top of the leaderboard here after the checkered flag for the qualifying session was what I was trying to say, Justin.
So currently in the midst of some track cleanup, hence the current delay, as some of the karts have to be picked up from the racetrack and from the racing surface here. For those wondering again, to reset for those tuning in, 206 Sportsman, Cadet, Medium, Junior, and Masters in the morning, along with KA Senior Masters. This afternoon, it will be the 206 Supermasters, the Micro, the Mini, the 206 Heavy, the KA Junior, and the 206 Light will close out the day and the doubleheader weekend. And it's going to also be curious how drivers respond to the different track temperatures in the respective groupings. You have hot track conditions yesterday, expecting cool ones here this morning, and vice versa for these respective groups. Speaking of the groups, the next group is now heading the racetrack for their qualifying. 206 Senior Medium. Elijah Fox is the points leader for this series. He's got the advantage with 2,321 points. Braden Johnson just about having it locked up for the championship, depending on what happens. Need to make the starts, obviously. 2,113 points. Jared Howerton, who finished third yesterday after some last lap battling. He's third in the point standings in the 2,000 bracket, looking to try and get some separation. Just within 20 is McCorquodale. Levi Wilbur rounding out the top 5 of those point standings did not start in this class. So, your thoughts on what we've seen yesterday in the racing, where Elijah Fox got the sweep, and as you said, a dominant day for Elijah Fox in both the morning and the afternoon.
Well, it's really just the consistency of Elijah Fox that stood out to me throughout the weekend. I kind of touched on it yesterday, but it seems like any situation that you put him in, it doesn't really rattle him. He can be in the lead and he can hang on to the lead for a really long time. He can make his kart really wide, play really good defense. But on the same time, if you do happen to get past him and he does make a mistake and you let him by, it doesn't seem to bug him as well either. He was able to sit behind the leaders that they had the race, make a calculated move, and it wasn't even really a contention. It wasn't even a pass where it was a battle. He was just really good at making those passes, shut the door, playing defense right away, and that's what led him to his success yesterday. Really interested to see if he can keep it going today. Really just hard to keep that level of consistency that high for that long. So he's doing a great job right now, finds himself at the top of the leaderboard right now. But again, looking down, look who's right behind him again. It's Jared Howerton and Braden Hebert, who we saw yesterday. So I think we'll continue to see that battle evolve today, and I wonder if anybody has anything for Elijah Fox this morning.
It's going to be an interesting one again for the day. Elijah Fox does have the pole time right now over Jared Howerton and Braden Hebert. Top 3 from yesterday, all staying top 3. Howerton just took top spot on the board. Howerton to the top, also jumping up today. Gage Justiano, keeping an eye on him. He's in 5th. Levi Wilbur is here today, is qualified right now in the 4th position for the session. Ryan Waldo, also one of the drivers, he wasn't here yesterday, that's here today, that's looking to set some times here. And of course, with the doubleheader weekend, you're talking about a lot of commitment. Some drivers make that commitment, some drivers can't make that commitment. You'll see that when it comes to a difficult, to be able to make the time, so to speak, work, when you're having to have 2 races in a weekend, 2 different race days, I should say, in a weekend.
Well, a lot of people have got full-time jobs. A lot of these drivers as well are balancing school schedules, maybe other activities as well. So it really does take a lot of discipline. This isn't going to be your number one thing that you're doing in your life. Everybody has a family. Everybody's got outside responsibilities. But you kind of mentioned it. To come out here for the whole weekend, it takes a lot of time that you're setting aside. Even for you and I, Justin, this is 8 hours both days that you and I are spending here covering this. So it really does take a lot of commitment from everybody involved. And while you say that, I just want to give a quick shout out to all the volunteer staff at Whiteland Raceway Park. They've done a great job this weekend of putting everything together. Also a really good job of just sticking on schedule as well. Everything is run exactly like clockwork to a T this weekend. That's really hard to do as well, Justin.
Yeah, it's been very efficient, and it's been very strong when it comes to that efficiency here this weekend. I'd thank them for all their hard work here at the facility, as well as to our crew here for the Indy Karting Challenge here this weekend here at Whiteland Raceway Park. So, 2 minutes ago, still in this qualifying session, by the way, Howerton and Fox still working together here, a part of this grouping of qualifiers. Heber is in a different group right now. It seems like Howerton prefers to be the lead. You can just tell just how difficult some of these drivers are taking some of these corners here. Fox backing up the corners a little bit. Maybe try to set up a run for the next time by.
Well, I noticed a lot of these corners, too, in this configuration are a lot more sweeping than what we saw yesterday. Yesterday, there was a lot more hairpins, a lot harder braking zones. This is a much more fast and flowing configuration, and I really do enjoy watching these karts rip around here. There's a lot of speed that everybody is carrying through the corners, so I'm interested to see kind of how I touched on at the beginning of the broadcast, Justin, what the differences in the racing that we'll see today is versus what we saw yesterday with all those really heavy braking zones after long straightaways. You see here the difference going to this part of the track right now. They would have switched back into that S section yesterday. Today they're going around and keeping the speed up around this wide sweeper S section here. So really interested to see how those drivers adjust. Different strategies we'll see come into play. I don't even really know where the passing zones are going to be yet until we actually see the racing action. So that's going to be fun to watch as the day goes on.
Checker flag already coming out for this session. Elijah Fox over Braden Heber, Jared Howerton, Levi Wilbur, the top four right now. Others like Nostman and others still yet to cross the line. It will be Nostman who stays in the top five over Santos, Justiano, Brady Sappenfield, Braden Mayfield, Ian Stowell, and Ryan Waldo rounds out the 11 for this grouping. Elijah Fox setting the pole by about a tenth of a second today. So halfway through the qualifying rotation for this session and this grouping of drivers this morning. Next up on the docket, 206 Junior. 206 Junior now swarms the racetrack. And again, that's been an interesting championship because you've had different drivers come in and pick up wins not in the championship fight. Lucien Laser is currently leading the point standings. He's got 2,149 points, finished second in yesterday's final race. Evan Padden and Gabriel Payne lost ground, along with Colin Harden actually dropping down to fourth in the standings. 1,977 points for Padden, 1,918 for Payne, 1,905 for Colin Harden. Those drivers all in the championship conversation as we get set to go here. Thomas Anthony dominated yesterday. He is here today.
And it was a slightly different domination than what we were talking about maybe with Elijah Fox. Elijah just came out and really was just in control of everything. Had a lot of challenges the whole time, but really nothing really shook him or rattled him or anything like that. It was a little bit different for Thomas Anthony. We saw him in the final race yesterday immediately get out to almost a 2-second lead, and then it really didn't shrink much below that for the rest of the race, even increased. So really good job by him to just run the table all day long. A little bit different kind of domination than, if you will, but just still a great job here as they come by for their first time here. I'm sure he'll be back to the top of the board, but we'll see how the rest of the qualifying shakes out for him.
Round Q, top of the board for Anthony over Laser. That's by almost a full second. In fact, with a 51.950 to start off the session for Anthony. And for Laser, good chance to be able to be in position to almost put this on lock for the championship here today. A big opportunity for Laser to set himself in a great spot for the finale.
Yeah, Laser was kind of, I would say, the best of the rest yesterday as well, too. Thomas Anthony, we mentioned it, got out to a quick early lead and then never looked back. But Lucien Laser really had some work cut out for him. He had to battle his way back up through the field, got himself all the way up into the second spot towards the end of the final race. So a really good points day for him, all things considered. You kind of mentioned it. He hasn't been the fastest driver every single week. He's not taking the top step of the podium every week. But he's been really good at just staying consistent and earning maximum points every time that he can. Not only that, he's earning more points than his competitors. You kind of mentioned a tough day for those chasing him in the championship hunt yesterday. He's just done a really good job of controlling what he can control and then maximizing the points earned.
And he, with that second place, has finished second place in finals 2 rounds in a row. as well as on the podium at least in 5 consecutive races. Laser has to be able to put himself in that great positioning this season for the title fight. Still under 2 minutes to go in the qualifying session. Anthony setting 50.7s at the moment, 50.6, and Mason Ward just shook things up in the qualifying order. A 50.8. Evan Patton up to third. Harden in fourth. Laser is back in sixth in this session. Still under 2 minutes to go in the qualifying session.
Now, a couple more drivers have moved themselves up into the 52nd lap time bracket. Carson Benjamin actually moves himself into third place. He was your pole sitter for just a little while before Thomas Anthony took that spot back. Isaiah Maxey now sits in second position in qualifying. So some names kind of mixing it up that we didn't see up there yesterday, Justin. Now coming up here and showing people that they mean business as well. I remember the battle between Gabriel Payne and Lucian Laser was one to watch yesterday, but now Laser falling down to 8th place just after we got done talking about how he's done a great job of controlling what he can control and maximizing points. He's kind of working himself out of a hole right now with his qualifying effort.
Take a look at Anthony around the racetrack, setting the 50.404 last time by. We'll see if that stays here. Carson Benjamin just jumped up on the board. He's within a couple 1,000s, in fact, a couple 100s, the 98 Kart. Maxey, Payne, and Ward still in the top 5. Lucian Laser in 9th. One of your championship frontrunners not having the best of qualifying runs with the way things are staying. There's the 317. Coming up to the close of the session here pretty soon. 20 seconds on the clock. Anthony comes across and improves by another 10th. He's improved every single lap.
That's really impressive, too. Usually you see kind of a bell curve to the performance of these karts where they're good in maybe the 3 or 4 lap range, and then they start to fall off. It's really rare that you see your top time be towards the last lap of the race, although now as I say that, there's 4 other drivers that put their 5, 6, 7 other drivers that put their fastest time down in the last end. So maybe the cold temperatures this morning, Justin, factoring into that a little bit. It's definitely going to get a little bit warmer today, not as warm as we saw yesterday, but maybe these cold temperatures factoring into our lap times a little bit.
Gabriel Payne taking the top spot for now. Thomas Anthony yet to finish his qualifying run, though. He gets an extra opportunity. To Anthony does not improve. So Gabriel Payne takes the pole in the final moment with a 50 flat. Taking it over, Maxey for today. Carson Benjamin qualifies third. Anthony in fourth. Parker Dunn in the top 5. Mason Ward and Colin Harding in the top 7 of them. Patton Lucian Laser back in 9th position. Regan Harbert in 10th spot. Nico Santos and Bentley McCann, the other starters in 206 Junior. So that brings us already to our next grouping of drivers, and they're all staying bundled together here to start off this qualifying 206 Masters.
We kind of see that too as the groups go on. You start to see more of those drafting tactics kind of come into play. I think a lot more of it comes to the skill levels of your drivers as you get into these later classes start to match. So it's not so much of a skill level thing. It comes down to a racecraft kind of thing. So that's why you're starting to see some of these drivers starting together, trying to get some drafting together to get some good qualifying times. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say I don't think track position is going to be as important today as it was yesterday. It's still important, still very important, but we saw yesterday with all those places, it was so hard to pass. Track position was really, really vital. You really need to have yourself in that top 3 kind of category to really make any kind of noise. I think that's going to be a little bit different today. I think we're going to see a lot more passing, but I'd love to be proven wrong too, and it usually happens. I'm usually wrong quite a bit, Justin.
So, Melvin Gotze, J. Brian Williams, Troy Totney, Michael Baden. We also have Kelvin Beasley and Josh Piccioni, who are all part of this session here this morning. So, see what the times fall here. Remember, J. Brian Williams picked up the sweep yesterday in this class. to come away with some strong victories. The Masters yesterday, for reference or earlier today, I should say, in their warm-ups, led by Melvin Gadsey by 12 one-thousandths of a second over Brian Williams.
Melvin Gadsey was another one of those drivers, too, that really was putting pressure on J. Brian Williams yesterday. Troy Toney was another one of those as well. Both of those really battled with J. Brian Williams the entire time. I would say Gadsey was probably the fastest of that group. I would say a couple of moves he made later in the race kind of hurt his chances to really hang on to solid positioning. Troy Toney as well was in that battle all evening long. So you see those three drivers together on your screen right now. I think we'll continue to see that as the evening goes on, or as the morning goes on. I'm already starting that again as well. But right now, the top of your board, Troy Toney, 50.498 on his second lap. And you got two other drivers right now, who is J. Brian Williams and Melvin Gadsey, in that 50-second bracket, Justin.
And so far, the one thing I'm noticing is this section right here is going to set up some difficulty for passes. It seems like more of a flow section than it is a let's dive on in section. I'm curious if I'm wrong for the race section of this broadcast here today, but it seems as though a lot of people are having to slow up a fair bit, and it costs a lot of momentum in that section.
I'm thinking, too, there might be more opportunities. Again, I'm speculating, so I could be wrong, but I think there'll be more opportunities to race side by side here in this configuration. We saw yesterday that you really had to make your decision and choose which line you took through a corner. If you went side by side with somebody, you were going to get slowed down and passed by one, maybe two other karts that were behind you. So I think here you have the opportunity to kind of race side by side with other karts a little bit more. Again, we'll see when we get into the heat races and the final races, but I think your hypothesis, Justin, is correct. It's very flowy here. It's going to be really important to get that right and continue your momentum through this entire section right here. It's really, you talk about, driving the fast corners fast all the time. That's really important, but driving the slow corners fast, as simple as it sounds, is very important as well. Trying to get through those as efficiently as you can. And it's really hard when you have that many apexes, that many braking zones, to really just chain everything together and have a real fast run through that section.
Under a minute to go in this qualifying grouping. Right now, it's still Troy Toney up at the top of the board. J. Brian Williams in second. Melvin Gadsey, Josh Pecchioni, Michael Baden, and again Calvin Beasley rounding up the grouping. Main grouping of drivers, you see them on screen. Will there be any changes here? Expecting one more lap after this for these drivers based on the timing here. We'll see if they get a flag or not. The answer is we keep on going for one more lap. J. Brian Williams does indeed take the top spot by 2/10. As both Piccioni and Baden get the checker flag, everyone else gets a sixth lap to determine where they'll start today. It looks like they'll zoom on here. Most of the others, interestingly enough, elected to duck on down instead of keep on going, though, Ian. Except for these three. Pardon me, lost track of the kart for a second.
It might just be trying to save what you have in your kart, trying to save your tires, maybe saving fuel. I don't know. Maybe you just satisfied with the lap time you put down, and there's no need to put another lap time. So we'll see what happens here as these drivers come across start-finish line. Any changes in position, Melvin Gadsey will hop Troy Toney for the second spot, and then J. Brian Williams will put down your fastest lap time of the session with a 49.720 right at the end of the session there. That's the only real changes there that we've seen, though, in the running order. And kind of like we expected, J. Brian Williams, Melvin Gadsey, Troy Toney, your top three heading into the heat race.
Josh Piccioni, Michael Baden, then you have Calvin Beasley rounding out the lineup for that group. And that leaves us with one more qualifying session to go for this morning. KA Senior and KA Masters are due up next. We'll keep an eye to the left side of your screen when they get the release to hit the racetrack. So far for KA Senior, Lane Gibbs has been a championship front runner It's been a close championship, though, with A.J. Lund trying to stay within range of Elijah Fox, showing great speed in that class, coming away with the sweep yesterday. Lane Gibbs did pick up a podium to get to the more than 2,000 point mark. He's got an advantage right now with 1,996 to the 2,027. A.J. Lund with the 1,996. Blake Finley did not get on a podium yet. He's in third in standings with 1,820 points, 5 points up over Casey Perry with his fourth place run yesterday. So, championship is still wide open in KA Senior for today. By the way, Nelson already locking up the championship, has been in every single race. Looks to do well today in his respective race. So, your thoughts on KA Senior today as green flag is out. We're underway for this qualifying.
Well, Elijah Fox is in this class here, so you always want to see him go towards the front of the leaderboard. Usually we're used to seeing that. A couple other drivers. A.J. Lund was really giving him a challenge yesterday, though. Augusto Soto Sharipa is out there again today. He had a really strong run, just a little bit inconsistent for Soto Sharipa. A few little mistakes that cost him some position. So I'm interested to see if he can get himself back up to the front and maybe make a challenge for a win today. He was looking to do it yesterday, Justin, just kind of stepped on his own foot a few times there. Some incidents with other drivers, nothing really his own fault, just kind of, we talked about it, the timing of these passes and where you really got to make them. It's got to be so deliberate and so precise. You make one slight wrong decision-making process there, and then you find yourself back to position. So we'll see what they can do today. Some of the fastest lap times we'll probably see out of these karts, so it should be pretty exciting.
We'll see how the excitement really fares out. 3:30 to go in this session. See some of your front runners, how they're working out. Brandon Rutter so far has setting the fastest lap times, but again, usually takes until the third or fourth to really see the times solidify themselves for this class. This time around, keeping an eye on scoring. Up to the top, still Rutter. Elijah Fox now takes the top spot with a 44 flat. Braden Rutter stays up there. Augusto Soto Sharipa jumps up to third spot for now.
Very similar to what we saw yesterday, too, with the lap times as well. Well, not the lap times, I apologize, but the positions that the drivers are in when they put their lap times in. Definitely different lap times with a different configuration that we're on today. A little bit longer, actually, than we saw yesterday. A little bit more of a longer configuration these drivers are dealing with today, so maybe a few more opportunities here, a little bit more time for them to figure out some of these passes. But what we've seen so far is just more of Elijah Fox's domination. Again, that time by, he was the fastest car on the racetrack. Some others switching up there, now that I say that. Oh, wow. Look at everybody's coming in now. A.J. Lund actually comes to the top of the board here, Justin.
And A.J. Lund did finish second in the final yesterday, so there is a lot of pace in Lund's kart. Be able to battle for the race win possibly today. While slipping and sliding from Lane Gibbs as he tries to work with a teammate, it looks like. Try and set things up as high as he can. Right now he's qualified fourth on the pylon with under 2 minutes to go. This time around, Lane Gibbs does jump up to the third spot for the time being.
Sorry, Justin, I was waiting for them to come through again before I stopped talking. Soto Sharipa jumps up there to second position now. And look at that, Elliot Cox jumping up all the way into the third position. That's a name we haven't seen too much of so far, but finds himself up there in the third spot, even knocks Elijah Fox down to fourth. Lane Gibbs, Braden Rutter, some of the names that we saw yesterday towards the top of the field are kind of struggling today. Maybe not struggling, maybe just some faster drivers out there. We saw it in the earlier classes as well, kind of a shakeup with some of the names we saw being dominant yesterday are now towards the mid-pack, and they have their work cut out for them.
Elijah Fox to second last time by, still on the pole. Elliot Cox just jumped up to second as well. A lot of shuffling. Now in the running order. Got a lot of shuffling in the running order now as Elliott Cox to second, Fox to third, Soto Sharipa to fourth. Expecting the checker flag coming up next time by for many of these drivers up towards the front. You see the drafting pack really solidify and settle on in. Lund still the time to beat, a 43.436. Some bump drafting into the section before the checker flag. These four will keep going. At least one coming into pit, make it two. 495 electing to come on down to Nathan Williams. And that breaks up the big pack.
Yeah, and you can still take that final lap if you take you cross the line before the checker flag. You still can get that one lap in. So you have two drivers right now. They got themselves in a good little pack, deciding to do that. Let's see if they can make a last-second dash here to the top of the leaderboard.
One more chance to dash around here. We'll see. Checker flag waving. Lund's already finished his session on the pole. Elliott Cox locked into third. Lane Gibbs locks to sixth. So no change for them. So it's AJ Lund on the pole. Elijah Fox and Elliott Cox. Also in the fourth position, Augusto Soto Sharipa, followed by Braden Rudder, Lane Gibbs, and Casey Perry. Blake Finley, Riker Matz, Hudson Potter, Macy Gallion, Kevin Simonellick, Colin Flynn, Nathan Williams, how they line up. Simonellick and Williams, your Masters drivers. So that gets us into the end of qualifying. It's time to head behind the paywall. Once we go behind the paywall, it will be race time for the heats in a few minutes' time at 9:34. Again, you're watching Kart Chaser. We hope to see you on the other side of the paywall for the Indy Karting Challenge.